Now let's go live to Sportsburg of Charleston with the head coach of the Bulldogs. To the Bulldogs, good morning.
Good evening, and welcome back to the Sportsbook of North Charleston. Here for the Coaches Show with the head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Brent Thompson, as we talk Citadel football over the next hour. Coaches Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits, and for the Citadel, coming off that game against Chattanooga, we'll talk about that and get ready for the final home game of the year for the Citadel as they welcome in Virginia Lynchburg this Saturday at 2 p.m. Coach is with us as always. Coach, good evening. How are you?
Good. A little bit different today. No practice today. The NCAA has mandated this as a day off of all athletic activities. So we've came in, got some work done, got ahead on a few things, and really we just got ready for tomorrow. So it's kind of an odd day. We had to actually practice on a Monday. We definitely had to practice on a Sunday because we're losing days here. And then we don't know what the end of the week's going to look like. So it's kind of a little bit of an odd week. We've got a storm coming in. We've got a day off on a Tuesday. So we're really trying to juggle and manage and do a few things here in preparation for this week.
Yeah, you just at this point just take it day by day when it comes to the weather. Do you know what the week may hold here as we move forward?
Well, the most recent thing that I saw was, we were planning on it being on a Friday, which would have been fine for us. It's just a walk-through Friday. But it looks like it may be coming in more on a Thursday, and that's going to throw some things off. So some things that we had planned to do on Thursday, we're going to really have to get done on Wednesday, and it's mostly in our kick game. There's certain kick games that we do on Wednesday, and we do them all on Thursday, but there's some things that we have to get covered before a game, and that's how we're really planning it for the week.
Yeah, so a little bit of a different week because of the weather this week, and then as Coach mentioned, because yesterday you swapped the day off with the practice day so that guys can get out there and vote today for Election Day. Also, as we were just driving here when it was already dark out because of the time change, that felt odd too.
Yeah, it definitely feels odd out there. You come in and it feels like it's 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and it's really just 5:30, 6 o'clock. So something to get used to is we had to put the lights on the practice field and that time of year, but it doesn't feel like that time of year. It's still very, very nice weather out there.
Yeah, it sure is. It's been beautiful the last couple of days. We'll talk about that game coming up Saturday. Get ready for the Citadel's final home game of the season with Virginia Lynchburg. We'll get back to our film breakdown. We are back on YouTube, so if you're listening, of course, we appreciate that, but you can always head over to the YouTube page as well. Look up Citadel Sports on YouTube and find the video stream live or also on demand. As always, you can watch the show back whenever you want for the Coaches Show here tonight, brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. Let's first spend a few moments, as we always do, looking back at the past game, which was Saturday at home against Chattanooga, 31-21 for the Mocs. And just first off, I guess, when you go back, you look at the game, what stood out, what seemed to be the difference in the outcome of that one on Saturday?
I was very disappointed after the game for a lot of reasons. We played very, very well, and we played well. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to do something a little bit different today. There's two things that I'm going to do with the video segment today. One is I'm going to show you the way that we were playing on defense and kind of what my thought process was at that point, and where we were in that game. I'm going to kind of take you back into that moment of time. And then offensively, what I'm going to show you is a little bit of what you don't really see as a fan, and that's kind of what I've been trying to do all year long, and see what's the chess match between the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. What's going on there? So I've got an interesting kind of a 4 or 5 play series that I wanted to show you. But all in all, we played extremely well. We took them all the way to the point where, we just got that one last turnover that hurt us, and it's been the same thing week after week. Is we don't know where that turnover takes place. It took place right there in I believe it was the third quarter there, and we were in the red zone and we were moving the football, and it took all the wind out of our sails. They went down and scored after that, but we still chased them down. So I was proud of our effort. We took the number 11 team in the country and we took them all the way down to the point where it was a 10-point game. We make the field goal before the half. It's a 7-point game. We don't turn it over there. It's a very winnable game for us. So proud of the effort, proud of the kids.
Yards per snap. So I mentioned down 10, third quarter. You're going in and trying to make it a one-possession game, and it turns into potentially a 14-point swing. I know nobody's more frustrated than you are, but when it comes to just those turnovers, that seems to have been the issue these last few weeks.
Yeah, well, right now I just looked it up today, and we're -6 right now. And for us, you can't be -6 and win many games. Turnovers have been absolutely killing us. And as I go back through it, I'm sitting here racking my brain about what is going on, what's the difference. We're really never that far off in the turnover margin. And I keep on going back to three different fullbacks in there, 4 different fullbacks with Orlando in there, 3 different quarterbacks. You've got a dozen different ways that the mesh is going down right in there, and a lot of those came between the quarterbacks and the fullbacks right there. We had a couple pitches here and there, but for the most part, that's what's happened to us. It's just inconsistency at those 2 positions that in this offense will kill you, especially when you've got younger guys playing in those positions. So, the turnovers, there's going to be some interceptions here and there, but for the most part, we've got to keep the ball off the ground. We need to be able to kill it and score it. And then, a lot of them occurred in the bad spots, the red zones.
Yeah. Let me ask you about the quarterback, Peyton Derrick, who made the return to the starting lineup, was very efficient through the air and helped lead you back in that fourth quarter. The 2 touchdown drives, had 2 touchdown passes, able to get you down the field pretty quick on those scores. Just all in all, what did you think of your quarterback on Saturday?
Well, like I said in the press conference, I thought he did exactly what we needed him to do in that particular game. I take the blame for the 1 interception there. I went into the game, and I kind of mentioned it to you at some point, we had to take some chances. We have to take some chances. We've got to get them off of us. I don't think we could have made a living inside with that defensive line and those linebackers that they have. However, if we do a pretty good job in the play-action game, we're gonna take our shots. All in all, I think he threw the ball extremely well. He was 9 of 13 or 9 of 12, something like that. He only had like 3 or 4 that were off. My only issue was I think he held a couple of them a little bit too long, especially later on in the game. But this is the first time I've really seen him run the ball downhill with some authority. It got to the point where they had to adjust their scheme to be able to stop him, which was nice to see. He wasn't out there just trying to pitch the ball. He was out there trying to get vertical and get yards. So all in all, I think he played really well. Probably his best since playing the East Tennessee game. It's probably the most healthy that he's been since playing East Tennessee.
On the other side, defensively, I know you mentioned this in the press conference yesterday, but the defense was playing well, especially against their rushing attack. You had that stop after the turnover, limiting them to the field goal. Had a big interception there around the goal line as well. But it seemed like as that game went on and their rushing attack was able to kind of wear down the defense a little bit, what'd you see from your defense as the game played out?
Well, first of all, we were executing our game plan perfectly, right? We were making them one-dimensional. The quarterback's good, but he's not going to necessarily dominate you like Sanford does in the pass game. So you have to take out the run game. We took out the run game. Alim had a very benign first half. Second half, they leaned on us a little bit more. But for the most part, we kept the ball in front of us. We played extremely well on defense. And then offensively, we moved the football, and we were able to at least get some points on the board early on, get a turnover there. Even when, and this is the series I'm going to show you, even when we turned the ball over in the red zone, they didn't panic. We played extremely well on defense, held them to a field goal at that point.
We'll get to that film breakdown in a moment, but before we take our first break, just a couple highlights. First touchdown Saturday for Johnny Crawford with his first rushing touchdown get in on a 1-yard touchdown run. Christian Hilton, who's been good this year at the wide receiver position, had his first touchdown catch. So a couple of those young guys that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks that were able to find the end zone for the first time on Saturday. Yeah,
I'm going to show you the Christian Hilton one right there. That kind of plays into what we were talking about a little bit. Johnny played a little bit at fullback for us again this week, giving us a little bit of that juice. And really, Brayton had got us all the way down there. And Braden was, we were trying to pound it in there. We ran the belly a couple times in there, and helmet came off, so we had to put Johnny in there. And Johnny ends up, getting the touchdown, getting the give in there. So good to see, though. He was excited for it.
He vultured that touchdown from Braden Walker after that nice run. The Bulldogs fell this past week against Chattanooga. They're home this Saturday for the final home game of the year, 2 p.m. kickoff against Virginia Lynchburg. When we come back in the Coach's Show, we'll get to our film breakdown and look back at some of the plays and the sequences from this past Saturday's game against the Mocs. It's the Coach's Show. The head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Brent Thompson, here at the Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston, talking Citadel football. Coach's Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. We'll come back with our film breakdown after this, all across the Citadel Sports Network. Of the Bulldogs, Coach Brent Thompson here from the Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston. And the Coach's Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits each and every week. Back to our film breakdown this week. We were not on YouTube last week. We're back and ready to go. So if you're listening online or listening through your radio, head on over to YouTube Sports now, or I should just say YouTube and then Citadel Sports on YouTube. Head over there now or later on to catch it on demand as we break down some film. And, Coach, as you mentioned, you brought in some plays, a sequence from Saturday's game against Chattanooga. So I'll just pass things off to you, and you take us through what you have here from Saturday's game.
All right, so here's what I did was this is immediately following the turnover where Braden got it raked out. He was held up a little bit, got it raked out. It's 7-0 right now. We're in really good shape. Braden just kind of ripped off that run. We scored, as you mentioned, on the Johnny Crawford touchdown right there. So we come back and we give him the ball right here at the 10-yard line. This is backs against the wall right here. This is where you got to stand up and play a little bit of defense. Right here, we always say we got to hold them to a field goal at this point, at least, or a field goal attempt. All right, I'm going to show you about 2 or 3 guys' effort right here. This series right here it set the tone for the rest of the day for us. The defense really did a great job here. Jay Smith, I believe Jay's right in here. Yeah, watch Jay right here. Makes a great play right here as he comes off the block. All right, makes a good play, gets up and in there. All right, and right off the bat, they go from 1st and 10. And by the way, statistically, when I used to do a lot of analytics back about 3 or 4 years ago, 1st and 10 from the 10 is the hardest part on the field to be able to score from, because you don't have the ability to get a first down. So you got them behind the chains right now. Now you got them 2nd and 15. All right, but just to show you a little bit of the effort that these guys have gone through. They know where they are. They know the back's against the wall. They're trying to run the football. They're just going to try to pound it in with a limb right here. He does a good job of really just beating this scoop block essentially all day. Does a great job. Makes a 5-yard loss in the backfield. All right, next play. Let's take a look at the next one now. As we get through here, you could see right here we've got pressure coming, right? So we get a little bit lucky right here. We cut the tight end loose here. All right. However, the pressure gets to him, right? And this is Kyler coming off the edge right here. So we got 2 guys unblocked at the point of attack. All right. But what you'll see, all right, is these guys. This is technically an RPO, right? This is a predetermined RPO for these guys. All right. These guys are downfield blocking. They're about 2-3 yards, so they're within that range that they can block at. All right. And they're just looking to see, is there anybody here that they can get this ball to? We get fairly lucky, but there's enough pressure on the quarterback where we force a bad throw. All right. So we're feeling pretty good about where we are right now. And now we've got him to 3rd and 15. All right. Last one I want to show you. Watch. I believe this is Rhett up here. Rhett's playing our bandit position. 5th-year graduate player from Wofford. Here he comes. Does a really good job. Sees it. Here he goes. The safety comes down and covers. Sees it, sees the gap open, fills it, and now we've got them for a loss. So all we really did was we went from the -10 to the -15. They lost 5 yards on that whole drive right there, -17 yards. At this point in the game, we are fired up, right? We are fired up. And at this point in the game, I'm thinking to myself, we just held them to a field goal right there. We've got the momentum on our side. This is going to be a good day for us. This is a day, and this is probably what this series right here, and I said this to the defensive staff the other day, is this series right here is probably the most heartbreaking right here at the end of the day, because we fought our rear ends off to be able to keep them to a field goal. We were playing with a lot of momentum. We were feeling good about ourselves, and here we go. We got them down. All we really needed to do was just sustain the momentum. Unfortunately, couldn't do it. We had a couple of our own turnovers here that really hurt us, but I thought that was a really good series and a really good play by Rhett. All right, what I want to take you through here is this is kind of the last kind of a play right here. This is an RPO play. We talked about RPOs last year, and this is the pick, right? This is a really good play. He's reading this little area right here, so he's technically reading him right here. Take a look at this, and this kind of little bit of a hole. So he sees, right? Bev is all the way down, right? Bev is down. This is this is how you take the RPO away, all right? This is a pretty savvy play by him. He acts like he's filling, which that is his responsibility. He's got to fill this gap over here because he's still got to take care of, all right, the running back in this gap. That's still where he's got to be, all right? But he sees it and he adjusts to it really late, all right? He not only protects a touchdown right here, but he protects a score. They're going to probably at least kick a field goal right there. But we talked all year long about all these RPOs that these teams are doing, and they're very, very hard to play. All right, but you're talking about a 5th-year player figuring out a way to be able to play it and do it effectively, especially down there in the goal line.
And
So
I believe, wasn't that after a previous turnover? So
it was.
Yeah, got it right
It was.
back.
Got it right back right there, which was nice.
Yeah, so a couple of instances with the defense coming up big.
Yep, big, huge. Really good. I'm really proud of these guys right here. So twice, backs against the wall, 3 plays and a field goal right here, and then we get the turnover right there. So once again, at this point, you're saying, man, I mean, things are just going your way. All right, let's go to the offensive side right here. So this was a series of plays for us. All right, this was a formation that we knew we can get them into. So we're trying to get them into a formation where we know where they're going to be number 1. We can gain some numbers, number 2. All right, and we've got a pretty good plan against it. So right here is. We've got this guy right here, so he's leveraging our tackle a little bit. All we're going to really do, this is going to run. This is how Peyton got most of his yards throughout the day. And we're going to go ahead and double team. This is just a simple zone option play for us. All right, we're going to double team the 5 technique right here. We are going to double team the 3 technique right here, or it's really a 2-eye technique in there. All right, and then we're going to take the A back and we're going to load onto the backer here. The B back, he's going to take the safety. Okay, so with this situation right here, we're going to treat him as the pitch key. All right, and then what we say is this guy right here, we got to watch this guy for coming into the alley, all right? And then what we do with this guy in the alley, all right, is figure out how do we want to attack him with some play action. So let's just take a look here. So we do a pretty good job. We're running it to Terrius' side. We've got Christian here. He's helping out on Terrius, so that's a double team there. We're creating that. A-back does a good job of loading the play side linebacker. Now we've got the B-back, quarterback, and the pitch. So our numbers are looking pretty good right now. There's your pitch key. There's your pitch back. There's your fullback for the free safety. All right, free safety fits outside. Quarterback fits inside. Pretty good 8-9 yard gain right there. We're in 3rd and 1 range. We're easily in good shape right here. All right, once again here, so our B-back, he's going to check this gap, make sure that this guy doesn't plug the gap right here. We're going to take these 2 guys. All right, we're going to hammer them all the way back to these 2 guys right here. We're going to take these 2 guys and hammer it back to this guy as well. So we've got double coverage on that guy. There we go. The A-back takes him on the load. And then the fullback goes ahead and kicks out the safety, and we've got a pretty good run lane right there. All right, let's take a look here. Same thing, same exact play, okay? And this is where I'm talking about. So they haven't adjusted just yet, okay? Everything's still the same. First half, second half, didn't change anything at the halftime. Still exactly the same play. We got the double team. We got the load by the A-back right there. We're getting the safety down a little bit, all right? And this is what we keep our eyes on in the box right here. This is the guy that's the unblocked player that you got to find out where he's going to fit. He does a good job, fits outside, Peyton fits inside, and we get the longest run of the day for him right here. So now, now he's got some juice about him right now. We've gained some yards on this play, so now they've got to figure out how they're going to take this play away from us. All right, well, we're going to run it until they take it away from us. So here we go, we got it again. So this is a series right here. I think it's the same thing, just going the next play, going the next same way, going a different way right here. All right, we missed a little bit on the load block. We're starting to get that safety down a little bit faster right here. So now you're thinking play action, play action, play action. All right, fullback, he goes ahead, he takes out the backside backer right there. There's your safety. All right, and we're up right here at the 21-yard line. Okay, now they call timeout here. All right, they disrupt your momentum a little bit, but nothing that really you're still doing fine. You should be able to punch this one in. All right, so we've got a little bit of a different play called here, okay? And it's really, we just got a veer scheme called here. I didn't know what their adjustment was going to be, but you notice that's the safety, that's the other safety, okay? So it doesn't change a whole lot for us, all right? It puts this guy a little bit closer to us. It puts this guy a little bit closer to us. So we really have a veer play called here. Not in bad shape at all. So here's what we would do on veer, and this is what we end up doing here, is he's going to go ahead and he's going to load this linebacker to this safety, all right? He's going to go ahead and he's going to arc the corner. We're going to read him as the read key and pitch off of him as the pitch key. All right. So our numbers are in good shape. Our leverage is in good shape because the safety's in the middle of our formation, so we're still in good shape there. They're squeezing the gap. So we end up getting, this is actually the turnover. This is the next play, the one that kind of really sets us behind a little bit. We executed fairly well. We got the read. Read is perfectly fine. We've got the read. That's a pull read. Tight end, or the wide receiver in this case, he goes ahead and he gets it squeezed off a little bit. We lose a little bit of leverage on this linebacker right here, but we've got enough to be able to survive this, okay? And here we go. All we got to do is we're going to be one-on-one with the safety. We just got to beat it out here to the perimeter. Probably not going to get a home run out of it, but we're going to live to play another down and just get right here. All right. And unfortunately, sometimes this happens with A-backs right here is you kind of get your eyes off of this and you get it onto the rush a little bit. All right. And you take your eye off the football, and the next thing you know, you're worried about making your cut instead of getting down vertical. All right. And we dribble the ball a little bit. So that's I just wanted to show you not necessarily the turnover, but I wanted to show you their adjustment to it.
Right.
Okay. So this is the beginning of the chess match, right? So we knew that was coming. The play was going to be okay. It wasn't going to be a great one, but it was going to be okay. All right. However, now we've got to say, okay, what are we going to do? Okay, how do we want to play action these guys? So they come out and we've got the same formation. They keep this thing into a too high, all right, into a too high look right here. All right, so all we're trying to do right now is we're going to try to, no matter what, is we're going to action this way. Okay, we've had this thing in our playbook all year long. Break it out against this guy. So we're looking for the leverage here. Okay, so he's got leverage. We run this play to a tight end side. Now we're just going to run it to a wide receiver side. This is the guy that we're watching right here now, and I'm watching this guy all day long. As soon as this guy starts to move, right, at that point I'm a little bit nervous. He hasn't moved on our A-back, all right, but we've got the leverage. All we're trying to do is just drive a ball back in here. We've got Y-pop, we've got X-pop. This is an X-pop, all right, and he does a really good job. Christian does a really good job, but I want to show you something. I want to show you the throw. The throw is a little bit scary because it's got to come off of the ear hole of this guy, all right, so we tell the quarterback, this guy's going to move a little bit, but we want to throw it off the ear hole of this guy. Before the ball is snapped, your pre-snap key is here. This guy has got to move a little bit. He's got to give us a little bit of that window, and then you got to get the ball out. This is not even a three-step drop. This is a one flash fake that thing, and let's hammer it into the backside gap right there. Now, if that ball's a little bit out here further, it probably gets a little bit more yards and leaves him on our back. But nonetheless, regardless, a really good play. All right, now I want to show you the next one here. Okay. Here's our next play action. Now they've rolled the safety down, right? We were in a nasty, kind of more similar to the look that we turned it over on, okay? Now all we're trying to do right now is we're going to try to play action. This is the guy that I was telling you that we wanted to look at, right? That's the safety that we want to play action here. So as soon as this safety starts to get too far or too nosy over here, we've got to start to get something going back against the grain. Let's take a look here, all right? And this is just a vertical concept, right? We're going to take all these guys and we're going to run them on verticals. So we're trying to take this wide receiver, we're going to try to run him through this safety right here. All right, he gets shoved down, so the safety actually beats us over the top. So we tell our quarterback, all right, you read it from here to here to here. All right, well, the corner we knew was going to kind of come off and he was going to float onto that guy. So now the split becomes here. Once again, we've gained leverage here. Benny takes his guy out of there. We kind of leave him out of the mix. All right, and then I think Peyton puts a ball in there that's really hard to throw in a really good spot because it's the only spot that you can put the defender and the ball right there. Once again, he's throwing off the ear hole of the backside. The linebacker, all right, puts it in a good spot, and Christian makes a great adjustment to it. So it's a good first down touchdown for him. So as soon as they move that safety up onto the line of scrimmage, you have to go to a pass game, and you got to have a plan for the pass game. All right, let's talk about this one. Now, this one we drew this in the dirt. This was backyard football right here. There was a bottle cap here, and somebody was, someone was the bubble gum right here. All right. So here, once again, is we're looking at the leverage of everybody. Okay. So we notice what we did with our backside guys. Okay. In order to hold this guy back here, we knew we had to keep the A-back on the backside of this play. So the tight end and the A-back stay backside, okay? Well, they only got really one more guy over here. This guy's playing a little bit of a support role. So what we were trying to do is, once again, we looked at his leverage, and we said, okay, who can get inside of it? So we drew this thing up in the dirt. We've got a semblance of an idea of what the play is, how we get it called. I said, Dom, here's what we want to get called. Tell him what to do and make sure that we get this thing adjusted. And he did. He was able to kind of get these guys going in the right direction. All right, and then we called it on the next series. You could see, once again, as we've got the leverage we're looking for on this guy. All right, so they may have taken one thing away from us. They tried to take away the zone option. They took Peyton out of the game with us as far as his feet were concerned. So we had to go to the next best thing, which was the play action. We were able to score off of it here too. Once again, quick throws, getting them out. These guys, these pass rushers are pretty good. And that's a freshman guard right here. And this is, these are all conference players. These guys are pretty darn good. So we just got to get this ball out as quickly as possible. All right, does a good job, puts it in a great spot for us. And Coop makes a great catch on it. All right, and once again, you're feeling good. I mean, you're battling right here. You're fighting. You're fighting. You guys are excited to be able to play right here. We're scoring. We're throwing the football a little bit. We're giving the 6 guns right there. Coop's giving the sheathing the sword and everything else. We're excited about playing football again. I think that was it. So 3 play actions right there and a couple of run plays in there. Just kind of the little bit of the in-game chess match that was going on between the offensive coordinator, myself, and the defense coordinator. It's one of those days, and it was another reason why it was so exhausting. Yeah. It was one of those days where you had to keep on adjusting, is looking at what they're doing and just taking what they can give you and trying to go back through your mental Rolodex of how do you take advantage of this stuff. And part of the fun, but it's also part of the exhaustion of the day.
I can imagine. Yeah, that's the fascinating part. Now, how much of it is anticipation of what you think they're going to do as a reaction, and how much of it is reactionary that you kind of wait for them to make that change and then you respond?
So a lot of that is, if you do have to anticipate something, and that's why when I was going through it, I said, the guys in the box, you guys watch this guy. You guys watch the safety, all right? Watch the safety until the point that we have them. Mm-hmm. Once we know we've got them, then, just let me know and we'll pull the trigger on it. But some of the stuff, when they move a guy down, right, now you've got to go back through and say, okay, well, where, like this last adjustment right here is where are they giving up their leverage, all right? And that's where I've always been a little bit hesitant in the past because just a play action, right? You got to find a way to get the ball out. Well, this year, Peyton's done a really good job with it. He's a very kind of in tune thrower. He kind of knows where the ball needs to be, knows where it goes. But that part of it, it's been kind of fun with him to be able to work with him in the passing game. But you got to know what strings to pull when. Mm-hmm. And the one that I didn't show you, the one that we threw the interception on, I was a little bit greedy on that one. Is we had that set up for a different coverage. We crossed the 50-yard line, and I was going to play it aggressive as I possibly could. It was by far my favorite play action of the week. They came out and he played a different coverage than I expected, and Peyton threw it a little bit loftier than I would have liked, and kind of threw it into a bad spot right there, and that turned it over. But that was the one that you mentioned prior to us picking it off on their end. But there was an opportunity for us to get points there too, and once again, sometimes you got to be more patient. Sometimes I'm usually a little bit too patient there. I just felt it. It was one of those days I felt like we couldn't lose that one. We were on top of our game.
Yeah, certainly seemed that way there for the Bulldogs for a while. For the full breakdown, head over to YouTube, Citadel Sports. Find the video on demand later on and see the full video breakdown that Coach brings each and every week. When we come back here on the Coach's Show, we'll look ahead to Saturday's game, final home game of the year for the Citadel, and the Virginia Lynchburg's coming to town, so we'll get ready for that one when we come back. It's the Coach's Show, brought to you by Cutwater Spirits here from the Sports Book of Charleston in North Charleston. We'll come back with more after this, all across the Citadel Sports Network. Back on the Coach's Show with the head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Brent Thompson here with the Coach's Show, brought to you by Cutwater Spirits, coming to you from the Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston. And if you're in attendance with us tonight, get your questions in now. We'll get to those coming up a little bit later on to end the night when you can submit a question for Coach. In the meantime, a few more questions from myself as we get ready for kickoff Saturday for the Citadel final home game of the year. And Virginia University of Lynchburg, I'll have that right by Saturday. They'll come in for kickoff 2 p.m. Saturday. Come out and join us at Johnson Haygood. Coach, I know this was brought up at the press conference yesterday, but you have VMI next week, which of course a lot of people circle that one on the calendar. It's a trophy game. You have this game this week where, for those that are following or haven't been paying attention, you have a non-Division I team that's been winless this year, outscored by 300 points in their games overall. So just the idea of making sure that your guys, don't look past this one for VMI. Don't take anybody lightly when it comes to kickoff on Saturday. Yeah,
it was funny you say that, because just yesterday at practice, somebody turned to me and said, what is VMI doing on defense? And I said, I don't want to hear anything about VMI on defense right now. I know what you're getting at. I said, I don't want to hear it. We've got to focus on these guys. I don't know who we think we are, but we need to be able to go out and get ourselves a win this week. Focus on what we do and just do it as best as we possibly can, and then end our home season on a high note, and go ahead and then worry about VMI next week, and start preparation for those guys.
I know a lot of times games, at least when it comes to Power 5 schools, can be scheduled years in advance. How did this one come about to get these guys on the schedule this year?
It was one of those where we did not have an opponent. So here's what our options were at the time. Was we set our non-conference schedule as best we possibly can. We start to look for teams that have open dates when we have open dates, and if you don't fill those dates, you'll have a bye week. Which a bye week going into VMI would have been fine. However, we had one going last year and it worked out well for us. However, we would have only had 4 home games, and that wasn't something that we were looking forward to doing. So instead of having just 4 home games, we were looking for anybody that would come down and play us at home. Well, not a lot of teams are really excited to play us. Not a lot of teams are really excited to play us down here either. So it became very difficult. So we had to go find somebody that we could pay to come down here and play, and they just happened to have an open date. I had no idea who they were. I was thinking of going back to when we played Alabama in 18, and somebody asked Saban who we were, and he said, I've got no idea. The only thing I know is they started the Civil War. I've got that same feeling. I was like, I've got no idea who these guys are. I know Buddy Pugh up there at South Carolina State has played them. I know he's played North Carolina Central. They've played quite a few FCS teams. They're trying to generate some money. I don't think they've played a home game yet. So it will be interesting. I'm going to probably put a phone call into Buddy to kind of see what my expectations are, and hopefully be able to settle into what we want to do offensively and defensively, and get ready to play these guys on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, so along those lines, how much do you know about this team right now? Or is it going to be just kind of, hey, here's what we're going to do, and we'll figure it out as we go?
We've got film. We've got plenty of film. We've got North Carolina Central film. We've got the South Carolina State film. We've got plenty of film where they've played. We've got their last film against Weber International down there in Florida. So it's it's not a matter of we just don't know what possibly, what are they thinking on their end? Are they going to come in and change everything defensively for us because we're a little bit of a different approach? Are they going to change some things offensively, try to take advantage of it? They've got some really good players on the team. I've noticed that. They've got a nice kick returner on there. He does a really good job. He's a bit of a jitterbug back there. So there's some things that we are taking notice of that we've got to kind of stay away from and game plan away from.
Just give us, if you can, the best scouting report that you can, on offense. Like, what are some of the things that you've seen on film that they do like to do or try to do? What type of style do they have offensively?
They're more of a spread. They bubble screen it around a little bit. They try to get you out of the box a little bit. They've got some playmakers on the perimeter there. I think they want to quick release their quarterbacks. Defensively, they do a lot of pressure. Just watching their last game, which they played fairly close, they pressured quite a bit. So we've got to be, right now we're just kind of putting a game plan together for as much blitzing as possible and just trying to make sure that all of our gaps are secured.
You said you have the film. I know in the college basketball world, there's like a website you could go to. People upload the film. You could see the film of all the different teams. When it comes to football, do you reach out to the opponents? Do you swap? How does that work, the process for especially an opponent like this, to make sure you get film in anticipation of a game like this?
Well, about 3 years ago, it was either 2 or 3 years ago, we went to Open Exchange, which Open Exchange is really nice. And it's kind of what you're saying with basketballs. We can go onto the website and we can pull off what we need. The greatest part about it is we can pull off anybody in the country. So we can pull off, typically what Dennis does, Dennis is here tonight with us, is we pull off Army's week, Navy's week, Air Force's week. And then we'll pull off any of our opponents. So being that they played quite a few of FCS schools, we were able to go ahead and download all those videos prior to. So Dennis goes through and he collects them from week to week of all of our opponents. So as soon as one of our opponents plays somebody, boom, it gets pulled. Years ago, we didn't have that. We used to have to beg, borrow, and steal. We would trade. Many years ago when we were doing it on video cassettes, I mean, you really had to dub and tape over and find a way to really get somebody else's film. I've got DVDs. I've got a stack of, I got a binder about this thick of Army and Navy and Air Force DVDs, as well as all of my previous games. I don't know what I'm going to do with them anymore. They're not worth probably a darn, being that they're on DVD. Some of them have been converted to digital, but I even got Georgia Southern going all the way back to the late 80s, early 90s, that I went from cassette to DVD, DVD to digital. You can see how degenerated that's going to be.
Hey, that's a pretty good collection to have going back a couple years during the pandemic when there were no sports on TV.
Yeah.
People were looking for things to watch. You could have rented out some
At
old
my
games
fingertips.
from them. Along those lines, since we're on the subject of that, it became a little bit of a storyline a couple weeks ago where Shane Beamer may have got misquoted about talking to the opponent afterwards and exchanging ideas of hey, here's what we saw from you, yada yada yada. Any of that go on? Do you ever talk to the team you just played and say, like, hey, what'd you have on us? Here's what we had on you?
I know guys that do that. I've never done that. A couple guys that I used to work with used to do that. And they had buddies on on other staffs and everything. Number one, I don't have a whole lot of buddies. Number two, I don't have a whole lot of buddies on other staffs. But I could see that there is some advantage to it because you're having somebody else break down your film, and which is kind of nice. Which is kind of what all the quality control guys do now on the 16 different guys on Saban's staff that do the offense and defense, their opponents, and everybody else. I could see how that would be helpful. And then, a couple of times I've had some guys that have come and volunteered for me and have done that for me. And I've looked at it, and there's some interesting stuff in there. But then I'm like, you know what? Sometimes too much information is too much.
Right.
You get overloaded with it, and it's what I always say about all the analytics and stuff. There's some gut in there, and there's some things that you just you've been doing it this way for so long. It's kind of hard to break out of it. So take it what it's worth, I guess.
Yeah, it can become paralysis by overanalysis at a certain point. Getting back to the game on Saturday, come out and join us. 2 p.m. kickoff at Johnson-Hagood, final home game of the year or so. That makes it senior day. Just to spend a moment, reflect on this senior class and some of the guys that will be playing their final home game Saturday for the Citadel. Yeah,
we've got some really good ones, and that was that was after the game. It was a hard loss for those guys. It was a hard loss for me and those guys. A lot of those guys have been with me for a while. We've got a couple of guys that will be ending their career at home here, and guys like Destin Mack, Chris Beverly, Marquise Blunt, Terry Strayton, guys that we're going to really, really miss. Ben Brockington, although Ben's got another year left, I was hoping to try to convince him to come back as possibly being a fifth-year graduate student for us, because he's a guy that has done a really nice job at tight end. Didn't know how well he was going to work out at tight end, but he can catch it. He's been done really well in the blocking scheme for us. So, and I think it's more just a matter of does he want to continue going on to school?
Yeah, right.
Which I completely get, but I would love to see to have him back. So, a really good, and a lot of those guys are good players for us. Kyler Estes is a good player for us. So that was. I really wanted that win for those guys this past week, to be able to have that memory as one of their final memories on Johnson-Hagood about how they knocked off the number 11, number 12 team in the country, and feel really good about it. What's been a tough season. Those guys have put a lot into the program. They have been loyal to the program. Any one of those guys could have gone anywhere else in the country and been a player at the FCS level. But they chose to stay. They chose to be with their teammates, and they chose to be loyal to the program. So I'm thankful for those guys. I'm happy for those guys, and I want to send them out here in the last 2 wins.
Yeah, absolutely. A senior day is coming up on Saturday. Just along the lines of coming back for a fifth year or staying in college, I'm sure I've told this story before. But you coached at Northeastern, right?
I did.
My father was recruited to play basketball there. Didn't want to go because it was a 5-year deal. You had to go to school for 5 years.
Co-opting, yeah.
And then after you graduate, you realize, like, oh, man, I wish I had an extra year of
5
college.
years, right,
so
that's right.
the advice to everyone out there, as somebody who went through it myself too, right? Stay in school as long as you can. It only gets worse once you leave college. Senior Day coming up Saturday, 2 p.m. kick. Come out and join us at Johnson Haygood. If not, radio coverage begins at 1 p.m. for kickoff. When we come back, we'll wrap up the evening as it's time to get to the questions that are submitted for Coach. So if you're here with us in attendance, last chance, get your question in, and we'll get to those when we come back. It's Coach's Show with the head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Brent Thompson, here at the Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston. The Coach's Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. We'll wrap things up next with the submitted questions after this here, all across the Citadel Sports Network. Coach's Show with the head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Brent Thompson here from the Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston with the Coach's Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. By the way, starting next week, I believe, next Monday, we'll have the basketball Coach's Show with Coach Ed Conroy, who's back at the helm. The Citadel losing last night at Clemson in a hard-fought battle, 80-69. So we'll start to have the basketball Coach's Show from here on Mondays moving forward as well. So come out and join us throughout the week to talk Citadel sports, get some food, and come watch any of the games going on all the TVs here. But we always end the night with Coach Thompson with the fan-submitted questions. If you come out in attendance, you can submit a question personally. Time to go through these now before we go this evening. We start with a question from Dana asking, and I've asked you this before, but do you have any pregame rituals?
I do get this one quite often. Is nothing necessarily pregame. I've got game day rituals that always include me getting up, as I said, about 2.5 hours before wake-up time. I usually get a run in and a workout in. So anywhere somewhere about 4:30, 5 o'clock is when I get up. I get all that in, and then I sit down and I have my coffee, and I kind of go through my game plan and all my game plan notes at that point before everybody starts to get up and everybody starts to kind of come down for breakfast and just look over some things. I do enjoy that time of the morning for that stuff.
I know you'll be down on the field, pregame, and sometimes Lee will come over and talk to whoever. But at what point do you lock in? Are you having conversations pregame, or is there a certain point where you're zeroed in on kickoff, game plan, ready to go?
No, I'm pretty zeroed in at that point. I'm making sure that where we are, it's a little bit easier when you're going on defense first. So when you're going on offense first, I'm usually communicating upstairs with what my thoughts are early, what I want them to look at early, and where do I want to go with the ball.
Dave asks, who was your hero or idol when you were growing up?
Mark Gastineau.
Oh, for the Jets.
Oh,
right?
yeah, come on, man.
Yeah. Okay.
New York Stock Exchange, man.
It took me a moment. I remember. That's a good one. What if I were to ask you outside of sports? Was there somebody that pop culture that you looked up to?
Nope.
No. All sports. That's why you're a football coach.
That's exactly right.
Riley asks, what is your favorite sport to watch besides football?
I love hockey. Hockey, Penguins fan. Hockey is probably the next most exciting sport. Golf would be the next one after that. I can relax and watch a little bit of golf, but hockey is the only other sport that I will really watch, and I watch it from about February, right when football ends, all the way through to about June, hopefully.
Yeah, if the
That's right.
Penguins are still in it. Carmen asks, what is the team most looking forward to in the final home game this Saturday?
Well, we're looking forward to, number one, getting a win and getting some guys into the game. I'd love to be able to play as many guys as I possibly could in there and get some guys that haven't gotten a whole lot of experience, some time to be able to play, and maybe some guys that haven't played in a lot of their careers to be able to play.
Yeah, so that's interesting. As a follow-up, you have some young guys maybe that you want to see, or in this case with senior day, as you said, you have some guys that maybe haven't played a whole lot. So how do you try to balance that to do a little bit of both? Yeah,
we got to take preference to the guys that are probably haven't played a whole lot. The guys that have been loyal to the program. They've been scout team guys with us, so they've done their fair share of the heavy lifting around there. So it would be great to reward those guys if given the opportunity.
Jeff asked, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but does the weather forecast this week impact the game plan at all? It
will. It'll always have in fact, the rain really doesn't bother us too much. We do a little bit of ball exchanging. You'll do a little bit more predetermined stuff if you do have some bad weather. Once again, we typically do a Thursday or a Tuesday wet ball drill, depending on when we think we're going to get the rain. Whether it's the special teams or whether it's the offense, we usually try to do at least a day of wet ball drill every week.
This past Saturday, the game against Chattanooga was the warmest Citadel game in November in 5 years, as it was about 80 degrees at one point on Saturday.
It was beautiful.
It was a beautiful day. What about weather when it just comes down to temperature? Does that ever have any impact?
I think the colder temperature always affects us a little bit more than the heat does. The heat never really bothers us too much. We're so used to it. We're fairly acclimated to it. But when you go up there, we played, I think we were at home, not last week, but the week before. I saw guys with muffs out there, and I said, I finally turned to Kevin. I said, don't you ever issue another muff here unless it's 20 degrees out there. I said, I don't want to see these kids wearing these muffs out here. I mean, it's bad enough that we think it's cold. It's 46 degrees out here.
Hey, it's all relative. Connor asks, if you could add one current NFL player, we know the all-time NFL player, but if you could add one current NFL player to the team, who would it be?
Current NFL player, that's great. Jeez, I would take Tom Brady.
That's fair. How do you think he would do in the option offense?
Oh, he would be terrible at it. But you know what? I wouldn't be running this offense if I had Tom Brady, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's
I would
fair.
let him run the offense,
right.
and I would sit back, and that would make my life a lot easier.
Yeah, you could run whatever you want with Tom
That's
Brady. My question for you, because I'm already experiencing this, we had one radio station switch to the Christmas music. I'm seeing Christmas commercials. Christmas movies are already on. I know you're a big Thanksgiving guy. At what point, what date can we start to turn our attention to Christmas?
22nd, 23rd, December.
December. All right.
That's me. I mean, that's personally, we've got work to do, right? So we finish up. Thanksgiving is actually kind of a little bit of a break because you're not allowed to go recruiting during Thanksgiving, but you take recruiting all the way up to that signing day right around the 18th of December. Then you figure out who's not signed between 18, 19, and 20. By the time the 20th comes around, you're like, I can take a little bit of a break and I can breathe. I can start thinking about Christmas then.
Yeah.
It used to be the 22nd was my hard and fast date, but with the early signing date, it kind of gives you a little bit more, gives you some more time now.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a busy time around that time of year there in December. We got through all the questions. We got about 2 minutes to go, so I always ask you before we go, keys to the game as we get ready for Saturday, Senior Day coming up, and Virginia Lynchburg coming to town. We're early in the week, but what are your keys to this one Saturday to try to get out of there with a win?
I told the guys that we've got to be base, we've got to be fundamental, we've got to figure out our adjustments because, like I said, we don't have a whole lot of history film with these guys. We've got zero option film on these guys, so we've got to figure out offensively what are they doing, how do we adjust to it, and making sure that we can adjust to it. So for us, we need to take a very, very base approach to it, and that is we need to be extremely fundamental. We need to make sure that our gaps are covered. We need to make sure that we know where everybody is, and then that way we can start to execute our offense and execute any game day adjustments. Defensively, we just got to make sure that we, once again, is tackle fundamentally because they do have some guys on the perimeter that can get you. We need to be able to apply pressure to them and try to create as many forced turnovers as possible. I did mention the one young man in the kickoff game that we've got to pay attention to, and we've got to make sure that we get the kickoffs covered.
Is Senior Day, is that an emotional day for the guys for the team?
It is. It certainly is. It's certainly it's an exciting day because a lot of the underclassmen get excited for the guys that are departing the program. And then it's nice to have the mom and the dad out there, and I think we do a really good job at Senior Day. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, come out and join us and honor these guys that have given so much to the program the last couple of years as they play on that home field for the final time Saturday against Virginia Lynchburg. 2 p.m. kickoff. Come out and join us in person. If not, radio coverage begins at 1 p.m. for the final home game of the year and Senior Day for the Citadel against Virginia Lynchburg this week before that matchup with VMI to end the year next Saturday. Coach, appreciate the time as always. Wish you guys the best of luck on Saturday.
Thanks, Luke. I'll see you out there, man.
Absolutely. That's head coach Brent Thompson here at the Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston. The Coaches Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. We'll see you out there at Johnson Haygood Saturday. 2 p.m. kickoff. Coverage will begin at 1 p.m. on the radio. Come out and join us. Johnson Haygood for Senior Day for the Citadel and Virginia Lynchburg. In the meantime, here from the Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston, I'm Luke Morrow with the head coach Brent Thompson, wishing you a happy rest of your evening here all across the Citadel Sports Network.